I don't know what it is about the pandemic, but this has been a really, really good year for post punk albums, a la like The Fall and Wire. But TV Priest's album Uppers is a really, really good post punk album. It might be my favorite so far, but then every one that's been released has been my favorite, so that may change. But if you like post punk, if you like The Fall, Wire, that kind of thing, check out TV Priest Uppers. That's really, really good post punk album. Good morning, everybody, or hello, whenever this is. Welcome to my channel. I'm Shaggy, the cold and opinionated hippie. Here in Texas, we're in the 20s for like 24 straight hours. It's crazy. But I'm ranking and reviewing every single Frank Zappa album released after he passed away in December of '93. I've done all the ones released while he was alive elsewhere on this channel. And we are currently on number 50, The Mystery Disc. Ooh, or Mystery Disc. There's no the. So this was released, I think, in the late 90s, if I'm not mistaken, like 98. And it was originally released by Frank Zappa in the 80s. He re-released all of his albums on vinyl in a series of 3 box sets called Old Masters, the Old Masters. Started with Freak Out. I think the first one was Freak Out through Ruben and the Jets. And then there were 2 more, and it ultimately ended with Zoot Allures in Old Masters 3. But Old Masters 1 and Old Masters 2 contained a mystery disc, an extra LP, 2 sides of vinyl, that had a bunch of unreleased tracks and rare stuff and early pre-Mother stuff, and was really the beginning of Frank's archival releases. It was sort of the practice run for what would eventually become You Can't Do That on Stage Anymore, which would then become a whole bunch of wonderful things like the Project Object series and the Joe series in the post-Zappa living years. So I don't listen to this much. I think it is something that is a valuable release. It provides a lot of sort of background to early Frank. There's conceptual continuity clues, to lyrics that would appear later in Frank's career. But it's kind of like, for the most part, an album of nothing but really tiny hors d'oeuvres. You don't get the actual meal. You don't even get a real, maybe you get an appetizer or two, but they're not very satisfying appetizers, at least as far as length and filling you up. But it's interesting, and it gives the really hardcore fan something to like something to listen to and something to just flesh out their knowledge of Frank about. But for the casual listener, I don't recommend this. Even for the sort of even more so than a casual listener, you really have to, I think, be more of a hardcore person. You have to be someone who would order all of the albums on vinyl in a box set and then really care about what that extra album is. This is not the complete mystery disc. There were 2 tracks left off from the original pressings. They had Why Don't You Do Me Right and The Big Leg Emma. Those were, then Frank put those on absolutely free. He kind of put them between side 1 and side 2 on the CD release, so it ruined that flow. But that's maybe why they're not on here. Plus also to all fit on one CD, because it is a full 77-minute CD. So those were the 2 that were cut, and it makes sense. But again, I'm going to run through the track list really quickly. There's a couple things on here that are interesting, but the more interesting stuff, the stuff that might draw you to this, has been released on other stuff. You Can't Do That on Stage Anymore, Volume 5, The Lost Episodes, which is a similar themed release to this, runs up through the 73 band, actually runs up through way late 70s. That is much better than this, that has some duplications. Finer Moments has some of this stuff on it, I believe, which I'm going to review in a couple. And then Ahead of Their Time, which I did already review, has a good chunk of this on there, but in its like context and not pulled out and released. So this is what we get. It is 35 songs over the course of 77 minutes. So you do the math. It's an average of just over 2 minutes a song, but really there's a couple really long songs already released that kind of add to that time length. Most of the things are around just over a minute. So we get Theme from Run Home Slow. That is elsewhere. The original Duke of Prunes, kind of interesting, but it's only 1 minute and 17 seconds long. Opening Night at Studio Z, which is like a collage montage of people talking. The Village Inn, which is them playing at the Village Inn, and you get introductions, and you get the introduction to Johnny Franklin on bass, from the song Village of the Song. And Johnny Franklin too at the Village Inn. A little conceptual continuity there for you Village of the Sun fans. Steal Away, which is that early band playing kind of an R&B cover. This is pretty interesting. Not the best sound quality, but one of the more interesting tracks on here that isn't available elsewhere. I Was a Teenage Malt Shop, The Birth of Captain Beefheart, Metal Man Has Won His Wings, all with Captain Beefheart. Interesting little tracks. Interesting. Power Trio from the Saint and Sinners, which is a power trio. You only get 34 seconds of that. Bossa Nova Pervertimento, another portion of the guitar trio, which is on, I think, Finer Moments is where the guitar trio pops up. But this is them just kind of messing around. I think it's in the studio. This is a studio take. It's kind of interesting, not that interesting. Excerpt from the Uncle Frankie Show. Christmas-age, Joe's Christmas-age has a full 12 minutes of the Uncle Frankie Show. That is much more enjoyable. This is 40 seconds of the Uncle Frankie Show. You get Charva, a great early release song that was, I think, going to be in I Was in a Teenage Malt Shop. This is that song. The Uncle Frankie Show is Frank demonstrating different rhythmic styles, and then Charva is the style that Frank demonstrates on the Uncle Frankie Show. So those are tied in together. Speed Freak Boogie, which is like a studio jam, but the guitar has been sped up. Don't think it's that interesting. This is Frank's really, really early guitar playing style, which was, you could see him kind of figuring things out. It's still, and the fact that it's sped up is kind of just distracts from the whole thing. But it has that little sort of Uncle Meat sped up sound that occurs on 9 Types of Industrial Pollution. The Original Mothers at the Broadside is a 55-second little part. Party Scene from Mondo Hollywood, Original Mothers Rehearsal. These are all really short snippets of kind of a lot of chaotic. There's talking, there's a little bit of music. I mean, it's just kind of all over the place. An early How Could I Be Such a Fool, band introductions at the Fillmore West, and early Plastic People. This is pretty interesting. It's only 2 minutes long. This Plastic People is like a sort of a hybrid of the Absolutely Free version and the live You Can't Do That on Stage Volume 1 version, in that it starts off like stage 1 and is more straightforward, but then after that first verse chorus, it goes into the chaotic part of Absolutely Free, but live. So that's pretty interesting to hear those two, but it's only 2 minutes long. You get the Original Mothers of Fillmore East, a little 50-second clip of that. Harry, You're a Beast, you get 30 seconds of that. Then you get a whole bunch of songs that have been released on ahead of their time. You get Dawn Interrupts, Piece 1, Jim and Roy, Piece 2, Agency Man. Those are all on ahead of their time. They have different titles on there, but that's the entire play on ahead of their time. This is just a good portion of it. This is takes up, we're talking close to 20 minutes of this entire disc is just this portion. And I don't think it's that interesting, but if you do want to check it out, I highly recommend Ahead of Their Time, because that is the play plus a really pretty solid Mother set afterwards of a lot of their all their instrumental classics. You get an Agency Man studio version. I don't think Agency Man is that good of a song. It's more just a curio at this point. A lecture from a show. Woo! You get the Wedding Dress song, Handsome Cowboy Boy. Handsome Cowboy Boy. This is a great song that the Mothers did quite a lot, but this is also on Lost Episodes, so I recommend you getting that if you're interested in it. This is a good song. When I make playlists and when I used to make mixtapes and mix CDs and all that stuff, this song was on a lot of them. It's a fun little 2 covers, traditional songs. Good songs. Can you see my voice? It's really friggin' cold. I don't know if you can see it. We don't have central air heat. We only heat one room at a time here, sadly. Squeeze It, Squeeze It, Squeeze It, which is also on, it's the right there part from Stage 5, and I think it's also on Lost Episodes. You get The Story of Willie the Pimp, which is literally the story of Willie the Pimp. You get Black Beauty, which is also on Stage 5. Chucha, which is an early Reuben and the Jets type number. You get Mothers at KPFK, which is him talking. And then you get Harmonica Fun, which is somebody playing the harmonica, son. Blow your harmonica, son. And that's it. The longer stuff, the stuff that is longer, like the 5 minute and 23 second Black Beauty, That's on stage 5, and I recommend stage 5 more than I do this. This is really just sort of like, if Frank had never released other stuff, maybe this is valuable. But because he's already put out all these other releases, or ZFT has put out these releases that flesh out this material a little more, everything else I think is recommended before I would recommend this. This is more just like, it's a curio. It's a neat compilation of what Frank did on vinyl, his first sort of attempt to like release archive material, in sort of like a, a serious archival fashion, and not like inserted on an album somewhere, or like, look, I have this left over. I'm like Memoras, I have Planet of My Dreams left over. I'm going to re-record this and put this out now. It's none of that kind of weird stuff. It's just, anyways, I'm rambling at this point. The cold's getting to my brain. But yeah, this is number 50. I can't say I really recommend it. I don't ever listen to it. And so, you really, if you're hardcore, and you want to connect all those dots and know as much about Frank as possible, get it. Otherwise, you're better off seeking out other stuff. And that's my opinion. So tell me what you think of it. Subscribe so the algorithms can get this all over the place. And if you're in the United States, anywhere, stay warm, people, because we're being devastated by this winter storm. Peace.